Okay, so hello guys. I'd like to welcome you to this first kind of a short talk. I have with me here 4 engineers that are from different countries. They decided to come to Germany, study in Germany, and they already found also a career path in Germany. They're already working in different industries. I have here with me Georgi. He's from Macedonia. I have Adil. He's from Pakistan. I have Diego from Brazil, and I have here Osama, also from Pakistan. So first, guys, welcome to this first short talk. This will be about 40 minutes. I want to start right from the beginning. So you all were living in your own countries. You were doing your own thing. Maybe you just finished your bachelor studies. Maybe you already had some work experience. You've been working in your own countries. And then at some moment, you've started with the thought of maybe I should go to Germany. Maybe I should do my master's studies in Germany. So let's start with Georgi. Can you tell us why did you think about Germany and why did you apply for Germany and how did that happen?
Wow, thanks for inviting me. Uh, the story for me is that I didn't choose particularly Germany only. It was my applications were in uh, several countries, so it was Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, and I think that was it. And I applied to 4 or 5 universities. But being from Macedonia and not in the European Union, I was admitted everywhere, but because I'm not a European citizen, I was asked to pay a tuition. And the tuition in the other countries were crazy. Like for Netherlands, I think it was like 40,000 euros per year, and in Sweden it was 16,000. And then in Germany, as you know, it's you only pay 200 euros, 300 euros per semester. And and not having enough money for the other universities, I had to choose Germany, which is still not bad.
So from
Still,
your perspective, the costs of things and the cost of education is one limitation for other choices. So that makes
yes, of
Germany
course.
attractive first because of that
Yeah,
relatively cheap
definitely.
education for a
Not
foreigner.
relatively, very cheap. I
Okay.
mean, even if you compare to my Balkan country where the salaries are very low, still the education is more or less the same, giving costs.
And this cheap education is given by a government supported university. Does that mean that the cheap education is not to the quality of other education?
I don't know how exactly the financial is done here in Germany, but the quality, I mean, come on, Germany is the world leading, at least in engineering, even
Okay.
in the other fields. So of course the quality is top notch, I must say.
Okay. So Adil, for you, how was the decision process to come to Germany from your perspective?
Yeah, so I did my high school from Pakistan, and then I actually moved to Italy in 2011 for my bachelor's. So I did my bachelor's there in mechanical engineering. It was kind of like a special degree program, so sometime in Italy, sometime in the US. And then after bachelor's, I figured I would like to go more into manufacturing and production. And then I was like, yeah, what better country other than Germany, because the whole economy is kind of like based on industry somehow. So I was like, yeah, I mean, especially in Pakistan, I think, or maybe also around the world, there is this perception of, make in Germany, make in Japan, those kind of things. So I was like, yeah, I mean, if it's about manufacturing, then why not give Germany a
Mhm.
shot? Of course, like Georgia, I applied to many other countries. And in the end, comparing the kind of admissions I had and tuition fee and other things, for me, there was also a personal reason. I have some family in Germany, so some uncles and some cousins and all. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I have a admission letter for a master's in manufacturing technology. And then I also have some family in Germany. So it was pretty easy, I would say, at that stage then to choose. Yeah.
So besides the attractive costs of education, there's also a very strong reputation for Germany in industry and
Mm.
manufacturing. So that was another factor for you.
Sure.
And Osama, as you're coming from the same country, was that also the same attractive elements that made you decide to come to Germany, or you also had some other reasons?
Yeah, also similar reasons. He studied in Italy, I studied in Pakistan. And you mostly in Pakistan, you tend to go to English-speaking countries, so Canada and UK and the US. I found the TU Dortmund course through a friend, and it was a really good course. So there were practical elements of instrumentation and these kind of things. There were a lot of research element in the control theory, which I liked. So I saw this course, and it was free, almost free, as Georgie says. I mean, there are living costs, but quite cheap. And I compared it to, let's say, $8,000 or $16,000 from Canada or UK, versus, or the difficult process of finding a job in Pakistan in the next years. And I thought, okay, this is definitely a winner for me. So I get to have an education that's really attractive from the course point of view. It's a well-reputed country. I'm not going to cost any money to my family or my own savings. So it was just a win-win situation for me, Germany and the course that I chose.
Okay, so there was a bit of worry about the language, I would assume.
Yeah, but it was in English. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe I was stupid back then. I didn't think much about the language. I thought, okay, it's in English, I'll manage,
Okay.
They're offering it in English. Obviously, they have other students who only speak English and they come there. They manage. So obviously it's possible to manage. So
Okay.
yeah, and it is manageable. You tend to struggle in the beginning, but you do learn, or you do learn to survive with whatever you have over here.
Okay. And Diego, so did you have those kind of worries for the language? So like Germany, and your language is not even English to begin with, your mother language. So how was the choice for Germany?
Actually, I never really thought about doing a master's here, to be honest. I wanted to do a master's in US, to stay there, which was not possible, too expensive. And then when I was a teenager, I was trying to learn German. And after my bachelor's, I decided just to come here for 2 months, travel a little bit, learn the language. And while I was here, I met some people that they told me about the master's in Germany and that you could study it in English. And then I started thinking, okay, maybe this is possible, to study in English here. And then I found out that it was pretty much for free. You just pay the semester fees. And yeah, that was like pretty much the story. So I started applying for different courses, mostly related to manufacturing, got accepted, and here I am.
Okay, so for you also that was kind of a practicality, cost reasons, and it's a master's in English, so it's not going to be difficult to go into that, right?
Exactly.
So for all of you, like when you applied, we're going to go back to applying in a second, but when you applied and you got there, you didn't have difficulty in like starting with the master's, integrating into the studies. That was quite easy from the start, right? So before you got to the university, you had this long application procedure. And could you briefly just tell me how long did it take to get the visa, to get all the paper needed, all the documents needed, and get your visas? You can just answer this, whoever wants to start first.
Yeah, so I can start. In my case, as I said, I was in Italy. It was like pretty straightforward. You get an appointment in Rome, go there with all your documents, and then kind of like, I think it was 5 minutes interview or whatever, pretty basic things. And then within 2 weeks, I think, or 3 weeks, I got my visa. But someone might tell you the case is slightly different when you apply from Pakistan. So for example, nowadays, it takes roughly 1.5 years to really get an appointment at the embassy, unless you're going, let's say, on a scholarship or a PhD, or you have a CGPA, which is like 3.8 out of 4. So that's very high CGPA. So yeah, in my case, in that sense, I would say it was pretty straightforward because it was like within the EU, so.
Is this situation because of the COVID, or this was always the situation where you have to wait a lot for visa and appointment?
I mean, since last 1.5 years, you already had to wait, but then because of COVID, it was roughly 1 year. Because of COVID, it became like 1.5.
Well, 1 year is a lot, right?
Yeah,
1 year is a lot to begin with.
The thing is, like, some universities, after like 1 semester, they'll be like, we can't extend your admission letter anymore, because there are other applicants for the next semester. So
even before COVID, the thing is that,
that's what I mean.
Like you mentioned, when I was applying, it was still a bit, odd to go to Germany. You people went to English-speaking countries, but I told you many advantages of coming to Germany, and then this thing in the last 5 years, it exploded in Pakistan. So everyone wanted to come to Germany, yeah, because they saw that it's quite easy. And because of this, the German embassy, they did not increase their personnel, and this caused a huge influx of applicants in the embassy. So even before COVID, the time of the visa processing was 1 year, and after COVID, it went up to about 2 years. And now they've again
2 years,
optimized the process a bit, and they brought it down to 1.5 years.
So, Osama, when you applied, did you feel that there was like some strange documents that you needed, you thought you didn't need, or some process that you didn't expect? Could you tell us like something that?
It was like Adil's experience. It was not easy. So our documents are not trusted by default. None of our documents are trusted. So you have to get them attested, and then they used to have an attestation 5 years ago, and then you need a new attestation on that attestation and a verification on that attestation. So you have to go to lawyer's office and courts and I don't know what. So from our high school degrees, 2 high school degrees, our bachelor's degrees, everything we have to get attested. And even in Pakistan, it's not an easy process. You have to find out where you get these things verified, where you get these things stamped. And it took a lot of time, and it takes a lot of effort as well to actually get all the paperwork done.
So you need an extra effort to get every single paper attested, every single paper confirmed, and with certified copies and whatever.
Certified copies, and
there's a long process.
And
for you,
when I applied,
the
visa process was easier. So it took I think 2 or 3 months for the visa. So now, as Adil tells you, the students that apply, they have to have an extra year just for the visa processing.
Yeah, I mean, I went through the same thing when I was applying for Italy, actually. So back then, it was the same thing, because after high school from Pakistan, the problem is you have to get your documents attested from different, let's say, institutes or organizations who are in different cities, So you first go to your provincial
it's a treasure hunt. It is a treasure hunt.
Then you go to the capital for some things, and then you go to some education people, and then foreign office and whatnot.
And then you win a trophy, which would be the study visa. That would be the trophy at the end. And you will pick it up from the university island, right? After you take the ship with your pirate crew. So it sounds like an adventure to get the visa process rolling, right? When you are from Pakistan, for example.
I think the problem is it's not just Pakistan. In some countries around the world, because people misuse some processes. So many people use fake degrees, to apply for study visas and all, because regular visa is very hard to obtain. So when you apply for, let's say, visit visa or business visa, they're like pretty hard to get. So people try to get away with the study visa with like fake documents and all. So then what happens is, like, even if you have a genuine case, you have to go through that difficult process so that they can really verify your documents, So
So you'd say that dishonest people make it very difficult for the honest people to do their work and to move forward with their lives, right?
You just need one of them, right?
Yeah. If there's one dishonest person that will force the system to change to catch that problem. Georgi, you being from a European nation, how was the process for the visas? How is Macedonia regarded at when you go to Germany to study? Like, is there anything easier being a Macedonian?
If I had to go through the same things in Pakistan, I would just quit. No, for me, because I'm from the Balkan, and we want to get in the European Union, so we have this like status of applying to the European Union. So for us, or for me especially, it was very, very easy, because we can come to Germany like for 3 months, like a tourist. So it's not a problem to come here and just travel. It's no problem at all. Then the documents, even from Macedonia, the documents, let's say from the faculty, the certificates, I was surprised even that they gave out in English. And then in Germany, they admitted it in English, like in the university. So I didn't even have to do some tests, or I didn't have to do any translations or whatever. It was, I mean, I did the translation in German just to have them, you never know.
The plan B.
Yeah, you never know. But when I came here, I came here like a, let's say, tourist. I got the documents in the university. Everything was okay. And then for the visa, as you all know, you had to go in Dortmund in the city hall. and yeah, it was easier. There were some stuff that we had to do from Macedonia to how was it? We had to prove we have enough money. That was a bit of a struggle, but for me, I think it was still easier because I know for Pakistan you had to have them in special banks or whatever, right?
Yeah.
For me, I first I had the money in just a Macedonian bank, which I had to prove that I have them, and then they asked like maybe to have them in Germany. I had to just transfer them, and but that was it, I think. So yeah, it was quite easy process.
Okay, so if you have a Macedonian passport, you're able to visit Germany for 3 months, or like
Yes.
visit as a tourist for 3 months, right?
Yeah, as a tourist, we can visit the whole EU
For three
but
months, right?
for 3 months, but you
Okay.
cannot work, you cannot do anything.
Of course, yeah. Anyone from Pakistan is not allowed to visit without a tourist visa, right? And I guess
No.
for you, Diego, from Brazil, you can also visit Europe for 3 months with your Brazilian passport.
Yeah. This was about the same thing as for Georgi. I mean, with the Brazilian passport, we can enter the European Union and stay up to 3 months, so it's not a problem. And then, while we're here, we can just apply for the visa, so it's not really an issue. And as far as like documents, since I studied in the U.S., everything was already in English, so it was just fine. They accepted it, like the university accepted it without a problem. I think the only document that I had to translate was the high school certificate, which for me was that was it was all right because I had done it before to study in the US, or I had it in English anyway, so it wasn't really a big of a deal.
It's interesting to mention that sometimes even if you're applying for a PhD, you need to submit your master certificate, your bachelor certificate, and your school certificate.
Yeah.
So you have to go back to the beginning, right?
How the hell did you graduate from university without a high school?
I don't know.
No,
You just
guys,
you're so lucky. You never went to school, but you did a master's and you're about to do a PhD.
No, I think the thing is like your high school, let's say, certificate is one of those official certificates that mentions your like date of birth and kind of confirms your name and everything. So in many countries, I mean, in the past, it was kind of like, a document to prove your identity. So
An
I
additional
think that's
document.
kind of the reason, to kind of like, instead of asking you for the birth certificate, they ask for the high school certificate to confirm that.
There's also like sometimes this is not for study, but I think if you're applying for a job, you also need to have a birth certificate, right? So to make sure that where were you born with an additional stamp on that, because whatever passport or ID you have is not enough.
Yeah, I think they also just want to follow the rules like companies and universities, because if they hire someone who somehow has a bachelor's and master's but no high school, everything is possible.
I'll be right back, guys.
They get into trouble. So that's the thing, that they also want to kind of like be on the safe side to get all the documents from you. So yeah.
I see. So you all got interested in coming to Germany. You all went through the process of applying. And as far as I remember, Georgi, you applied for automation. What was the title of your degree or the master's studies?
Automation and robotics.
So you applied for automation and robotics. Osama also applied for the same master's.
Yeah.
And Adil applied for master's in manufacturing technology, same as I did, same as Diego. So we all three applied for manufacturing tech, which is Germany. And you guys applied for robotics and automation, which is the new Germany mostly does.
Where Germany wants to go in future, right? So
yeah, so this is we're part of that, right? The right wave, I would say, or the right path, I hope. And we all came to the same university, right? That was TU Dortmund, Technical University of Dortmund. So actually, this is where I met you all. And we ended up doing similar studies or some shared lectures, some shared courses where we spent some common time. But I want to hear it from each one of yours perspective. Like I could say the common experience was nice and fun, but for each one of you, it could be a bit different. So for you, Adil, when you just you were in Italy and you got to Germany and you were
Mhm.
studying there and you just got to another university in Europe to study. What
Yeah.
kind of differences did you notice and what changed from Italy to Germany?
Yeah, so I would say I was kind of like when I went there for bachelor's after Pakistan, it was like a huge change because studies were difficult because of like, you know, difference between high school Pakistan and then high school in Europe and all. So we were just lacking a lot of basics, I would say. So it was kind of hard to start uni in Italy. But the uni I was in there in Italy is a really good uni. And the thing is like the basics were really good. So as far as studies were concerned, give me a second.
Gesundheit.
I promise it's not Corona.
That's good to know.
Did we throw you out of the call?
I think you can start with Georgie or Osama, and then I will then tell you my story later.
Okay, so maybe we'll go to Usama. So you're going from Pakistan now to Germany, right? So is there a
Yeah.
huge difference in the study system? Did you notice like big differences between the universities in Pakistan and in Germany?
Yeah. I was actually lucky because I had a nice university in Pakistan. Yeah, so I didn't have a lot of big difference in the basics, so to say, or I didn't feel a huge academic gap between the courses.
Can you mention the name of the
So
university?
that was pretty good. National University of Science and Technology.
Okay.
So it's one of the good universities. So that was not a problem for me to adjust with the academic standard in Germany. What I did actually notice was the freedom that we have in Germany. So, you know, there's no, used to have in Pakistan compulsory classes and you have to do stuff. And in Germany, you have the sudden freedom to go to classes. You can give your exams if you want to. You don't give your exams if you don't want to. There's no tuition. There's no time limit for your degree. So that was really interesting for me. The cultural shock is, of course, another big thing, which probably is not the topic for this question because we were talking academics. But what really hit me that I'm in Germany, like the German aspect of things, or like that it's the famous industrial or famous technology of Germany, was when I actually looked into the research or the industrial side. So during my studies, I came in contact with the internships or thesis or also the general faculty. So the network they have and the amount of money they put in actually the industry and the research, that was surprising for me. That was amazing. I'd never seen anything like that before. But from the studies point of view, it was okay. I didn't have much problems with that.
So you were kind of shocked with how big is the investment in technology and in research relative to the other universities you've been at.
Yeah.
So that's, I would say, it's
So
kind
you
of
have
explains
in one
where they
department-
come up with all of that new technology, where they come up with that quality of production and manufacturing because of all the research they invest in.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have one department of electrical engineering in which you'll have about 20, 25 professors, and each professor has 10 to 25 PhDs who are working full-time. I compare that to Pakistan, where even my good university will have 10 professors in the faculty of electrical engineering, maybe 20 people in the whole faculty doing PhDs. That's a huge, huge difference. And each professor has funding in millions sometimes in Germany. So the whole infrastructure and also the networking they have between the university and the industry, that's also amazing. The projects they're doing, the research institutes that are involved, it's quite something.
I see. So it's easy to see that whenever you invest enough in something and you put enough work and people into something, you will definitely will be ahead, right? You'll definitely have something better than what the others are doing. So that's maybe one of the things that keep Germany ahead in industry, and that again was an attractive factor for you to come to Germany, right? Because you knew they are moving forward. They have some new things that I can learn from, right? So
I did not expect this kind of infrastructure because I'd never seen this. So it was only when I saw that I realized that that makes sense now.
And did you end up like telling people you knew in Pakistan, like, guys, you should check Germany, you should come here, it's a good place? what kind of like connection did that change whenever anybody asked you about Germany, or anybody asked you,
Yeah,
should I come and study
definitely.
in Germany? What did you tell them?
Yeah. So just by the case I've told you, in the last 5 years, the amount of applicants to Germany has exploded. So obviously there has been a lot of positive feedback from the people who actually went there, people like me. From my personal experience, I have told anyone who has ever asked me or not asked me to please come to Germany. Do not. I mean, you can go to Canada and UK. They're nice countries. They have good education, but I don't think it's worth $8,000 or $16,000 per semester when you can have very good education for $300. So it's definitely very highly recommended for me.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask Georgi that kind of question, but I'm gonna flip it around. So from Germany's perspective, what do you think Germany, what kind of students Germany wants to have? What kind of people Germany is trying to attract to their market, I would say?
Uh, engineers, for sure.
A lot of them.
Engineers, scientists, also scientists.
Yeah.
But mostly, I think they're mostly focused on engineers, because I know from the scientists, let's say my brother and my sister-in-law, they're scientists in molecular biology, and they've had experiences more or less in Germany, and somehow it's a bit more difficult for them. There is not enough, let's say, for them, but for engineers, the connection between university and the companies in engineering is very, very significant, and that drives this the whole thing. There is a lot of money in this cooperation, industry and academia. So yeah, mostly engineers, and I would say, compared to my faculty back home, I was used to more seasonal, let's say, work. There's a lot of gap between tests or between exams. So in that gap, you're more relaxed, and then just before the let's say before the exam, you just study for 1, 2, 3 weeks,
Yeah.
depends on you, and you're okay. But here in Germany, I see, at least for the masters, I guess, and for our course, you need to have a bit more continuous, let's say, effort in studying. At least for me, it was like that. And it was a bit strange for me. As I said, back home, I was at the top. I wasn't the best, but I was at the top of the students in my course. But here in Germany, because of I was used to studying like that, here in Germany I was in the middle, let's say.
So you
But
had
it
to
doesn't
adjust your
matter.
habit, right? So if the
Yeah,
system demands that you're always given 70% rather than 20 and then 90 before the exam, you
of
had to
course,
adjust the way you study, the way you do your work, right?
of course,
So
yeah,
there's
yeah.
a lot of
And
personal effort to adjust your habits, right? When you
oh,
transition
for
to a
sure.
different place.
For sure. I mean, it's normal. Come on. You
Yeah.
change culture, you change a university. I'm guessing even in the same country, if you go from one university to the other, there will be a change and adapting, let alone just coming to Germany. So
Okay.
yeah, there was some learning curve in that sense, like not learning curve, but adaptation, let's say, of your habits and everything, how the academic life is done. And I would say, you need an effort. It's not just, you know uh, it wasn't as easy as I thought.
I
Yeah,
see.
it was a bit difficult to manage
Yeah, I'm
with
gonna be asking the guys for the same opinion. So for you, it was difficult, at least because of that different in the cycle of how the effort should go. Did you guys also have to adjust your habits the same way Georgi noticed that he has to?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I came from like the American system that you have, quizzes, you have midterms, you have assignments every week.
You did your bachelor
So
in USA, right?
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
usually during the entire semester, you're studying, you're working on assignments, and also the teaching style is different. You see, like the instructors, the professors, they're more engaged in teaching. They, especially because you're paying, so like they see you more as like a client in a way. So they want to make sure that you get like a good
service,
quality education, a good service.
Yeah.
And here, as everybody knows, it's not the same. Like most times you don't have the professor teaching, sometimes you don't even have doctors teaching the classes. And it's pretty much, just do whatever you want and then come to the final exam and
be ready.
Just see if you can, just be ready. See if you can memorize every single word and every single slide. And it's not really about like what you know or what you understand. It's more about what you can memorize. And personally, for me, that was really disappointing. I didn't like the way that this system works. But on the other hand, research and everything that is happening on the side was much more interesting.
So you felt like the course part wasn't the best courses, but the work part, when you did your projects, your labs, your master thesis, that was totally different, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We can generalize things. It's quite possible that in some other universities, they have slightly different system. But overall, of course, I have also heard from some students from other unis that you have to memorize things and all in a very short period of time for the exam. And you have to answer a lot of questions. Getting back to what I was discussing, like when I went from Pakistan into Italy, it was pretty hard in the first 1 or 2 semesters to cope up with the uni. But having done my bachelor's from Italy, it was actually like a piece of cake in Germany, because in Italy, it was like the uni was more like, more theoretical, but when it came to exams, they would really test your concepts, I would say. They would give you some numerical, some real kind of case studies, problems to solve, and then you kind of, first go through. Most of the exams were also open book. You go through your concepts, and then you have to implement those concepts to really solve those problems. And here in Germany, there was nothing like that. It was just like you memorize the concepts, and that's pretty much it. But overall, I would say the approach is more practical here. So they are not just into theoretical universities and theoretical research. I mean, of course, they're also doing that. But at the same time, as Osama said, like they're really collaborating with the industry and all, and they're really working on kind of like, real life issues and trying to solve them, something like this. So that was something nice and different.
I would like to add one thing to Diego's thing. The professor, you don't have professors teaching here. You have here doctor professor teaching here. So that's also a thing that's not common in other countries. So the high status of the professors, they're not approachable. You're used to, if you're paying at the university, you're used to just going to the professor. But here you have to really, really find the time that Dr. Professor can give you. So that's also a big difference in Germany.
So I still have 1 or 2 closing questions, 2 short questions for this topic. We'll have another session talking more about studying itself in detail and the final phases of the study. I wanted to ask first, when I asked first already, Georgi, what would Germany expect to have? Which people is Germany trying to attract? So of course, they're trying to attract engineers. They're trying to attract smart students, right? That have a good GPA. They have a good final project. Maybe they have published something. So that's when it comes to the work, right? They're attracting hard worker. But what would you say when it comes to what characters are they trying to attract? What kind of personality they would prefer? Do you have some advice on that? Some clarifications on that?
From my personal experience, I think when you look at the job market in Germany, they really value someone who works in a very organized and structured manner, and I think this is really important for them in that sense, that someone who can really just work independently, but at the same time in a good structured way, Slowly, I mean, of course, things are changing in industry as well, but the thing is like, when you talk about agile projects nowadays, many people are like, yeah, that's just like chaos, chaotic projects. They are not really agile projects, because many of them sitting up there, they are still into that very organized and structured way of doing things. And I think they're also really into this whole eye for detail. So when you look at like top executives in really good German companies, most of them, they're not like MBAs or whatever, like in some other countries. They're all kind of like PhDs, or they have all done masters in a technical field. So the thing is like, they really value your kind of like eye for detail, like you really master some skills and then you can somehow implement them and also teach others those skills. And of course, I mean, there are other things like teamwork and this and that and blah, blah, blah and whatnot. But this whole like structured way of working and this eye for detail, I would say from my experience, is something which they are looking for.
Or
Okay.
maybe to simplify, maybe they are expecting or asking for other hardworking Germans. Because yeah, it's a
Not
German
Germans.
German quality. Yeah, you know,
Hardworking.
hardworking, like
Yeah.
organized, definitely. But yeah, I think I saw you somewhere discussing this like innovation and rate of innovation in Germany, and why it looks like that. Let's say other countries, especially USA, they're very fast, they're very innovative, and they're very up there, like in innovation, let's say. But also this country and this way of thinking and working like this organized way, they also they're quite good. I mean, they're quite innovative, and this whole cooperation and throwing money in academia and industry also sticks. When you throw a lot of stuff in the wall, something sticks. So I think that they this organized way, this hard working also pays off in Germany. So I wouldn't say that Germany is not innovative. It's a bit slow. It's not flashy
It's also
as
a bit different. It's not flashy.
it's
Exactly.
not flashy as USA. It's not flashy, but they get the job done. So
But I mean, they know how to build brands. I mean, you look at the brands they built in the last 100 years, let's say.
yeah,
So of course,
yeah.
I mean, it's based out. I was just saying the kind of things they might be looking for when they're looking for people from abroad, you know. So
Other
yeah.
Germans.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't like necessarily agree with that character aspect, because I didn't feel like they're looking necessarily for detail-oriented people. I think they're also a bit confused when it comes to the character, because they want diversity, but they also want German qualities, but they also want people to, stay within their own culture. So they're a bit confused on that. But sometimes it helps to not be German here in the German work
Yeah,
culture.
sure.
So
Sure.
sometimes, because Germans tend to be very conservative, and if you're a bit of a risk taker, or if you tend to be a bit bold, it actually helps them, and they
Yeah.
kind of they kind of stand behind you. Then
I will leave 40 minutes for this kind of a topic. I know there's a lot to say about the cultural differences and the cultural changes, right? And the cultural shock maybe at some point. And there's a lot to say about integration, right? So, but let's just keep this at the first phases, at the first, impressions and how things went. I do have a lot of more questions, but let's do that in part number 2. For now, thank you all for joining me for this part number 1, and I hope to see you next week for part number 2, and we'll have that also posted on YouTube. Thank you, guys.
All right, see you, man.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.